Okay, this video is about less common mechanisms causing autoimmune disease. And so leaky gut's the most important thing to know. And if you go through the checklist to avoid everything that causes leaky gut, you got a really good chance to stop or reverse an autoimmune disease. Some of them, a lot of them from what I've seen, at least slow them down from progressing for a lot of them from what I've seen. But some people try doing all that and they're still not making as much progress as they'd like. And so I'm going to have a couple lectures on less well-known causes of autoimmune disease. Okay, so here we're going to be talking about F-. So first of all, let's take a look at a normal protein. So AA1 is the first amino acid, 2 is the second amino acid, 3 the third, and the fourth is over here. So this is a typical protein, which is just a string of amino acids. Now, they often fold back upon themselves, and they'll have hydrogen bonds between the amino acids to hold them into a certain configuration. That's very characteristic of protein. They fold a certain way, and that gives them their function. Okay, so here we've got the third amino acid of this chain to the third amino acid of this one. They'll usually be through what's called an amide. You can remember that by HAL, H-A-L, histidine, arginine, and lysine. So anyways, you don't need to know all that, but what you do need to know is there's a normal way they fold with hydrogen bonding, and F- disrupts that. Okay, F- will form a very strong hydrogen bond with the hydrogen on the amide, and it'll break the thing apart. Okay, so that's the concept. Now, once that hydrogen bond is broken apart, you have a distortion in the protein shape. So here's a normal. It almost looks like a whale's mouth, if you will, and the hydrogen bonds are holding these two strands of protein adjacent to one another. But when the F- comes in, it'll remove the effect of these bonds right here. There's to an oxygen. And anyways, the F- will then bind tightly to the hydrogen, and it'll distort the shape. It's almost like, imagine this looks like a whale's mouth closed, and here's the whale's mouth open. But the bottom line is it's distorted the shape of the protein. The shape of the protein can often be recognized by the immune system. So, especially an extracellular protein, for example, when you have a distorted shape of a protein, the immune system will sometimes recognize that as a foreign protein. It's no longer self, it's now non-self. And that non-self is often abbreviated PAMPs, P-A-M-P-S. This means Pathogen Associated Molecular Patterns. All right, so now the immune system sees it as its job to remove that item, that protein. Okay, so this is a mechanism of autoimmune disease. This, by the way, I'm going to show you this same slide again later in the talk, but this is the most important slide to get this. And by the way, you can hit the print screen button. Just hit the print screen button. It's the one located over the the arrow keys. Then you go up and there's the home, the end, page up, page down keys. And then the print screen key is above that. If you want to make a slide of this, let's say you have autoimmune disease and you want to keep a collection of the mechanisms, that would be useful to do. If you have any of these diseases, that's what I would do. I would make your own PowerPoint talk where you summarize all the mechanisms and then you systematically do your best to avoid all of them, and that might be helpful to you. That's what I would do. Okay, so originally I got back interested in studying F- when what was happening was I'll eat blueberries and they'll stain my teeth a little bit blue, and I was getting ready to give a lecture and I was getting teased by my family about having blue teeth, and they said, you look like you're from England, your teeth are so bad, that kind of stuff going on. And I figured, well, maybe I'll go buy a toothpaste, and because I don't usually brush my teeth, I usually just floss, and my teeth are fine. I haven't been to a dentist in like 25 years. I have all my teeth, they work just fine, they feel good. So anyways, I was shocked when I went to the grocery store that almost every single toothpaste, with a few exceptions like the Toms of Maine and a few other sort of rare esoteric brands, they all had F- in it. I couldn't believe it. It was being advertised as anti-cavity F- toothpaste, and I'm like, oh God. Whenever I see evidence of how clueless the American public is, it just makes me sad. I feel like this country, is doomed because the people are so stupid. I've known this for many, many, many years, decades, how bad F- is. So, anyways, that motivated me to give this talk. By the way, here's a good book, Flooride, the Aging Factor. It accelerates aging. This guy is a real smart biochemist. He's like the world expert on fluoride in his time. F minus is a halogen, you know, salt generating, halo, salt, gen, to generate. It has an incomplete octet. That means its outer orbital should have 8 electrons to be complete, and it's missing 1. So this unpaired electron makes it extremely extremely reactive. It's like called a free radical. All right, so it has the strongest desire of any element in the entire periodic table to grab electrons. And that can even be a definition of a pathogen, something that wants to steal electrons. So let's see here. Let me get my little self out of the way. So these are the halogens, and these halogens are in this row right here. And notice one thing about the halogen: they all kill stuff. Okay, fluoride kills stuff. It's in rat poisons, all kinds of insecticides. Chloride is used to sterilize water, sanitize water. Bromine can be used to sanitize a pool. Iodine used to be the standard prep for surgery. So what I'm trying to say is halogens kill stuff, and the most aggressive, worst, badass of the halogens is the fluoride, okay? It's a toxic element. But see how the more you go up into this corner, the higher the electronegativity. Here's the electronegativity of it, 3.98. That's the highest out of anything, even higher than that of oxygen, which is famous for having incredible electronegativity. That's why oxygen is the end of the line, the ultimate electron acceptor in electron transport and oxidative phosphorylation in the mitochondria. So I'll show you a picture of that in just a moment. But the point I'm trying to say is you're always going to hear how powerful oxygen wants to grab electrons, all right? But fluoride even does it more so. So that's actually kind of a big deal. Like I said, one definition of a pathogen is something that steals electrons and doesn't give them back. And fluoride is like the king of that. Okay, so fluoride also will inhibit complex 4 in electron transport. So this is inside a mitochondria. Outer mitochondrial membrane, IMM is inner mitochondrial membrane. These are the complexes that hand off electrons like a fireman bucket brigade. And the electrons pass from the least electronegativity down to the most electronegativity to oxygen, which then gets converted to water. F minus will inhibit this, complex 4. Okay, then complex 5 would be ATP synthase. So it inhibits mitochondrial function. That's bad. Anything that inhibits mitochondrial function is bad. Your mitochondria is where the vast majority of the energy in the human body is produced, and you want to avoid anything that inhibits it. Okay, so now we're coming back to this slide again. So the intense power of the F minus to grab electrons, it'll be attracted to, there's a little bit of a positive charge on the hydrogen that's bound to the amide. When I say amide, I mean the side chain of this amino acid. So anyways, fluoride will disrupt protein structure, and that will distort the shape of the protein. The distorted shape of the protein can be recognized by the immune system and cause it to react against that protein and cause it to, remove it from the body. And the protein will be dysfunctional when its shape is abnormal. So anyways, this is a key point. So what do you want to do if you have autoimmune disease and you're not getting better once you went low-fat, low-sodium vegan? Start doing all the other little things you could do, like definitely avoid this stuff, this F minus stuff. That's what I would do. Okay, a couple thoughts on F minus as well. You try to look up the mechanism of toxicity, just as you would so often see is the case. Something that's going to talk a lot about the problems of it. It'll be behind a paywall, so you don't really have easy access to it. One thing you look at here, it is an example of how it distorts the shape of collagen. You'll get increased hydroxyproline in the urine and hydroxylysine. Those are two amino acids that are rather unique to collagen. Excuse me. So the key thing to know is that F minus distorts the shape of collagen. It blocks hydroxylation of proline. Collagen has a really unique structure. I'll show it on another page here in just a moment. And we were just talking about how it distorts cell surface molecules, and that can cause DAMPs, disease-associated molecular patterns. Okay, some people will call that damage-associated molecular patterns. You can make it PAMPs, pathogen-associated molecular patterns. Okay. Now here's the shape of collagen. It's rather interesting. It's a triple helix, so 3 fibrils wound around each other. And the triple helix, the most common amino acid is this little sequence here: glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline. And they sort of wrap around each other and They're really strong. 1/3 of the protein in the human body is this collagen. It's like the glue of the human body, the scaffold of the human body. And the point I'm saying here is by inhibiting the hydroxyproline production on these proteins, F- has a major negative effect on the formation of collagen. So it's disrupting the entire scaffolding system in your body. That's bad. That's why I avoid it as completely as possible. It'll also then lead to the collagen in the body having an increased tendency, especially in tendons and ligaments, to become calcified, which can cause something called DISH in the spine, diffuse idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis. They'll call it fluorosis, but it's very similar to DISH. Anyways, it's bad for your spine. It's bad for your entire body. So I just wanted you to get this point. This is not quite exactly the same as an autoimmune disease, but what you want to do to be healthy is try to do everything as well as possible. And one of the best things you can learn from me is there's all these little things that are damaging your tissue function. And that's why I talked about my wrestling coach, Dave Schultz, at Stanford, how incrementally he wanted to learn everything about technique. Everything, not just what he was using that day, but if you learn all these little things and you avoid all these things, you'll just optimize your health. So those are pretty major points. It's known to lower IQ. It's known to significantly damage collagen, the scaffold in the entire human body, and it can cause autoimmune disease. I mean, what more motivation do you need than that to avoid it? Okay, disrupts many other enzymes as well. Over 100 different enzymes, according to Yomamis, are negatively affected by F-. We talked about the positively charged side chains of amino acids, HAL, histidine, arginine, lysine, where that's where the hydrogen bonds will be formed, and F- will distort those and potentially lead to autoimmune disease by those distorted proteins being recognized by the immune system as foreign. It'll also accelerate atherosclerosis, like damage to arteries, causing their calcification. And this is the last slide. You can detect the damage to the collagen by seeing increased hydroxyproline, HP, and hydroxylysine, HL, in the blood and the urine. It also damages the collagen in the bones themselves and their ability to mineralize, so it causes osteoporosis, increasing, the potential fracture risk of the spine. So, anyways, I thought this was interesting as another mechanism of autoimmune disease. And what's the lesson to be learned from all this is avoid F-. You don't want it in your drinking water. You can remove it from your drinking water with reverse osmosis filter. With distillation. Distillation gets a little more complicated because then you run into osmolality potential issues. Better yet, move to an area where you got well water and it's not in your water, or find a city where they don't put F- in the water. Those are all things that you could do. So anyways, hope that helps.